Hello and welcome to today's webinar. This is an educational webinar, and in this hour, you will learn how to have better operational efficiency for your branch using Lobby Manager. On the call today, we're excited to have Scott Foster, Redstone Federal Credit Union in Decatur, Alabama, and I'm going to mention that they were the Credit Union of the Year for 2018, so I'm very happy about that, and I know Scott and his team are happy. Scott's going to discuss why they decided to implement the lobby management and appointment solutions. So let's take a quick look at today's agenda. So we're going to start out with talking to Scott and how they are using Lobby Manager in their branch operations. Then we're going to switch over to Steve Powers, who's Redstone Consulting Group's president, and we're going to look at Lobby Manager and appointments. And after that, we're going to see a brief demonstration of lobby management in action. After that, we'll do some Q&A and have Scott and Steve answer any questions that you may have. So let me note that during the presentation, please input your questions into the chat panel at the bottom and send your questions to James Bray, by selecting his name in the pull-down option. And we'll try to answer all those questions at the end. Also, we are recording today's webinar, and we will share out this link with you next week. So we have a lot to cover today, so let me turn the presentation over to Scott Foster of Redstone Federal Credit Union to share how Lobby Management Solution will create a better user experience for your members and a better operational efficiency for your branch. Okay, Scott?
Thank you, Brenda. I appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. Hope that you guys are having a good week so far. Just to kind of briefly go over just an overview of Redstone Federal Credit Union. As she mentioned, we were Credit Union of the Year 2018 through NAVQ, which is a great award. Founded in 1951 for people working originally on the Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama. Of course, as you can tell, we have grown a little bit since then, with 26 branches currently operating in 2 states with over 430,000 members and over $5 billion in assets. We can attribute a lot with the Credit Union of the Year awards to our being a technology leader for credit unions. I feel that we have really driven ourselves as an institution for technology and worked really hard to ensure that we make things easier for both our membership as well as our staff. And the technology has been a huge part, and this Lobby Manager has been a huge part of our direct retail environment, and it's helped us out since 2014. We've used that Lobby Manager since Q1 of 2014, and overall, it has just been a huge help for us across all branches, all 26 branches. On this next slide here, before Lobby Management, originally what we were doing was we had a greeter, which was tied throughout the day. Each member would roughly be there an hour at a time when we would schedule that each day, and their queue would be maintained basically on a clipboard, to where we're signing that member last name in, the time, and roughly what they needed help with. Of course, being as this was when you had an hour schedule for a greeter, things could tend to get confusing. Things could get kind of diluted as far as how we proceeded with each member and getting them to the right person. There were no metrics available to optimize our branch. Like I said, it was a clipboard where one person or 2 people, if it was a larger branch, sometimes we had 2 greeters at larger branches, where they were literally just standing up there trying to direct traffic, getting them to the right person. This, of course, created longer wait times for our members, and we needed a solution, which is where Lobby Manager came in, of course, and really helped us out with how we handled our lobbies and got the member service increased to a level that was acceptable for our institution. That quote there where it's saying that we bypass the greeter and we'll go straight to agents. When people come in regularly, as you guys can relate to, they get comfortable with a certain person. They would literally come into the branch and walk straight into the office of the person maybe that opened their account, did their last loan, et cetera, where members would still be waiting in our lobbies, and they would come in and want service immediately and sit down with that person, which would create an uncomfortable environment for both the membership as well as our staff, having to let that member know, well, there's still people waiting, you'll need to go out into the lobby, I'm sorry. It just create a lot of chaos in the branches as a result, because we didn't have a good defined way to track, report, and control the organization of our lobby management. So after our lobby management, we're happy to report that our branch alone are reducing and reduced on average 75% as far as our wait times. I mean, honestly, day-to-day, it can be over 75%. It's been a huge, huge impact on our branch, and all branches have reported a very, very significant reduction since we have implemented the lobby management since 2014. The greeter resource is now servicing members. Obviously now we don't need that greeter interaction anymore with the lobby management in place, which frees up more employees, more staff for our branches to do what we need to be doing, which is helping those members efficiently, quickly, and taking care of their needs. So not having that greeter is a huge, huge impact on all of our branches. Agents better match member needs. What you'll see when you start looking at the demo, you'll notice that there's very, very, very good detailed ways on how you can watch your staff, watch how how many members are coming into your office, as well as how long those members are how long it's taking to service those members. So on top of that, you want to make sure that they get to the right person the first time. I know in the past when we were doing the clipboard method, you would have, say, somebody want a vehicle loan, but they want a member of Redstone yet. So what that would involve is going to a member service assistant to open the account and then going to a loan representative, which is highly inefficient and an inconvenience to the member, and it just doesn't set a good tone for what we're trying to achieve here. So this eliminates that through the lobby manager, as well as management has the metrics to now improve staffing and member service. Once again, when you look at the demo, when Steve goes over the demo, you're going to see that there's a very, very logical, very good method on how you can improve the staffing and member service experience by getting them to that right person quickly. The quote in there, the members do a great job of clearly indicating what they have come in for and which service is most important. When those members do come in, they're going to, of course, pick usually what they originally wanted. But as you guys can know, there are other types of tasks and other types of interactions that member may need or may be offered during their time in the lobby. So what this will do is we'll isolate the most important need and get them to that correct representative to handle all of their needs. Such as in our case, we have a member service assistant and we have a member service representative. The member service representative is going to be that jack of all trades that can handle the new account process before opening the loan or processing the loan or doing a home equity line of credit, IRA, et cetera. So it's a very, very good way of clearly indicating where that member needs to go at the beginning rather than having to kind of dance back and forth to figure out where they need to be. The member benefits, obviously from what I've talked about, shorter and more predictable wait times. What we've noticed since 2014 is that we can isolate the wait times and basically minimize and mitigate what they need to wait for, whether that be them going immediately to the teller line to do a transaction and offering a service, say a credit card from the teller line, and then having them go to the lobby. We can minimize that wait time by doing it right there at the teller line and logging them in so they don't have to go back and log in later, as well as we can predict roughly how long they are in with our service representatives. How long is it taking to do an auto loan? How long is it taking to do a new account, to print a debit card, et cetera. So, of course, with that comes service speed and accuracy. We get those people the people they need. We help them quickly, efficiently, so they don't have to wait unnecessarily. Able to choose multiple services on a single visit and indicate which is most important. Obviously, I've already touched base on that. When that member logs in, they will be able to pick that priority on why they have entered the branch, and it allows to get to the person that can help them with the service and complement why they're here to begin with. Our visiting times at this branch alone, we are very, very rarely going over 2-minute wait time since we've implemented the lobby manager. Our larger branches have noted very, very large reductions in wait time as well. Some of these branches, our larger branches, have 30-plus employees, so wait times will vary, obviously, by branch size. But the lobby manager has reduced by 75% across the board overall. So, staff benefits, the biggest benefit I can say is about this is knowing that what the member wants before interacting with them. Once they're logged in, either through the teller line or through the kiosk, touchscreen kiosk at the front, every representative will be notified that they're there. And what that does is it allows them to bring them into focus. Say they're coming in doing a vehicle loan. What that will do is that will allow that representative to pull all the pertinent software up and get it ready to go before they even get the member out of the lobby, which will help further efficiency and accuracy when they get ready to load that loan. And it lets them know what they need to do. It allows them to, do they have a checking account? Are they already have an account with Redstone? Are they a member? It allows you to pull all that information up before you actually start speaking with that member, which is very invaluable for accuracy and speed. Service requests that match your skills. Once again, there are situations where they might need to see a manager. In our case, signature guarantees are only done by management staff at the branch level. There is a spot in there for the lobby manager that you can specifically request a signature guarantee or stamp certification. So that would get that person directly to the manager versus having to go through the representative to say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. If you want to go back in the lobby, we'll get a manager for you. Management help when queues get long. This is invaluable as well, as you can kind of see your branch flow at real time. So basically you can look and see how long that member's been with their representatives as well as how long they've been waiting, and you can kind of make a decision whether you can need to help your lobby. If I don't know how everybody's businesses are, but I know we have to take members just like the representatives do. We have to load loans, we have to open new accounts, we have to do maintenance, et cetera. So this is a very good tool to determine how long that your representatives will be and make a decision whether you need to assist that lobby or if you know someone will be freed up in the next few minutes. Visibility, other branch workloads makes it easy to refer members to non-busy branches. That is very, very helpful. Say you have a loan that you're working on, but there's a co-borrower that needs to sign, and that co-borrower is 30 miles away, and there's a convenient location for our branch. We have a branch close by where they work. So we can go in and snapshot the other branches at Redstone and see what their wait times are like, how many representatives do they have, and how many are assisting members, and what is the wait time looking like. So they can determine off of that if they need to leave briefly their office to go sign some documentation to close the loan. We can suggest, hey, you can go to this branch and have your co-borrower sign here, and then they can send us the documentation. Basically makes it a much, much more pleasing experience for the members, as well. It makes our job easier. It makes the loan closing much faster, much more efficient. System in place and integrated within core. The teller create visits for members while waiting on receipts to print. We have cash dispensers at our branches, and they do take a moment to dispense the cash as well as dispense the receipt after the transaction is completed. This allows what we have trained our tellers to do is if they have somebody, say they're working a cash withdrawal or cash deposit, and they have someone that's interested in applying for a credit card, or they spoke to someone about applying for a credit card, this allows them, while they're doing the transaction and while they're waiting on the receipt to print or the cash to dispense, they can log in through the lobby manager and have that person already signed in, ready to go. And in many cases, if our wait times are low, there will be a representative waiting for that person as soon as they walk away from the teller aisle with a receipt, which is amazing. We've had very, very good feedback from our members because they don't have to wait a second time. They don't have to go log into the kiosk. They're ready to go. So that's where that comes into play. Management benefits, we'll definitely see this when Steve's doing the demo once again. Team performance against goals as well as individual agent performance metrics. This has given management a great opportunity to really track what our staff is doing on a day-to-day basis, as well as spikes throughout the week, throughout the month. What are we working on mainly at our branches? Are we focusing on a certain type of loan? There's a whole lot of applications for the reporting process, as well as how your individuals are performing. If you feel that some of your representatives may not be performing as well as you would like or have the output that you would like, this is a clear, concrete way that you can track that, and you can see what they're doing on a day-to-day basis and how much they're doing on a day-to-day basis. The service recovery, this is very helpful if you ever have a situation where a member comes in and you want to speak, and they want to speak with a manager or they want to speak with a member or supervisor, and they may have something that they were not pleased with, an interaction they were unpleased with, but they don't remember exactly when they came in or exactly who they spoke with, and you need to resolve the situation. Well, this allows you to pull that member information up into focus and see exactly who helped them, when they helped them, how long it took, and what they signed in for. So it's very invaluable when you're trying to resolve an issue with a member or with a certain situation. And like I said, once again, applications are very, very broad when it comes to what you can do with that. Of course, redeploying a greeter to more productive tasks. We had alternated at times at some branches where tellers and member service representatives were alternating the greeting, but this would cause longer lines. So obviously, you can be a much more productive, efficient branch with lobby management. Real-time workload visibility. Once again, I cannot emphasize this enough. As a branch manager, I continuously look at the queue, and it helps you determine, say your service representatives haven't had lunch yet, and you know that they're going to begin lunches soon. This allows you to see how long people have been waiting, of course, and it shows you how long that your current representatives are working on and what they're working on. So what that gives you is it can determine, like, okay, the branch flow in the next hour or two, I can kind of assume how the flow is going to go at my branch as far as 2 vehicle loans are in the lobby currently. Do I need to take this loan, or will the person that's almost finished with their loan be ready to take that next person? So I can't emphasize that enough, of that real-time workload will better help you and more efficiently help you manage a branch. The reporting also is huge for training opportunities for your agents or for your representatives. Sorry, my voice is kind of going out. But basically, you will be able to pull up any type of interaction specifically. Say you have a newer service representative that has just gone through IRA training, and they're nervous about it, they're not sure about it. You can actively look at any point and at any date range and see how many IRAs they've taken. Are they actively getting the training that they need, the on-the-job training, to effectively handle those IRAs? If you have smaller branches or slower volume, it really gives you an opportunity to focus on things to strengthen your employees if there are certain areas that they are not getting the opportunity, or for some reason are not taking the opportunity to take these types of transactions that they had the training for. So, and I believe this is the end of my part of the presentation, where I'll turn it over to Steve.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for giving us that overview of how it works for your branch. I want to let everyone know we will handle questions for Scott at the end of the demonstration as a combined Q&A session. Thank you for your time today. I'd like to talk just briefly about the lobby management solution Scott's team is using. It is one of the key things we emphasize with it. It is integrated into DNA, and that does reduce your staff effort. You don't need 2 sign-ons. Members see it, agents see it when they sign into DNA. You manage your people within DNA as a normal thing, and then they kind of automatically flows to the lobby management. It's a modular solution. We have 5 different modules to it. Only the core component in the middle is mandatory. Beyond that, there's an appointments module that can handle future visits, getting the right agent keyed up for the member at the time they want to come in. A mobile component that will allow members to check into the service queue prior to arriving at the branch. The lobby kiosk that Scott referred to that allows members to check in self-service either for an appointment or as walk-ins, and let the branch know what they're there for. And finally, there's an iPad application that can be used in concierge services where agents would walk up to the members, check them in. So all 5 of these components combine to create a full solution, but you can use only those components that match your needs. And here's kind of the more official names for the components. The items in green are the ones that we will demonstrate today. In interest of time, we won't go through the iPad app or the advanced check-in mobile solution, but the other 3 components we'll be covering very shortly. So as we go through the demonstration, I'm going to show you really how members and non-members can request services, either for appointments or checking in the kiosk, how we handle service requests as credit union agents, selecting the member that matches our skills, possibly making a transfer if we pick the wrong person, documenting the interactions we had with the member. Then show you from a reporting perspective how we can track the metrics around what visits we've processed, what people came in for, what appointments we've processed that people came in for, and then closing out showing how you can configure the system really to work as your credit union would like it to. With that said, I'm going to switch over to the demonstration. So this is the appointments interface that members would see. As launched really from your online banking application. We work from a couple of them right now, Q2 or DI, just basically launching off a menu that allows the application to bring up mobile websites. So as a member, if I wanted to check in to set an appointment, or to set an appointment, I would provide my name and the last four of my social. We collect the last four of social so that we can verify the individual against the DNA, just to make sure that we do know who they are. When that person signs in, they're presented with their what we call their appointments list. It shows an upcoming appointment for this person for 1223 for a home equity loan. I can look at the details of that appointment, how long it is, what identification we want them to bring to the meeting, or what information, their confirmation code, anything they added to it, told us, and then who they'll be meeting with and how to contact us. From here, they can request directions, reschedule the appointment, or cancel it. We also keep a list of the prior appointments that they've made in case there's any reason why they might want to go back and review a prior appointment. So to set a new appointment, we just click the new appointment button. The member is then presented with the options that we've configured, what service categories that they wish to pick from. And in this case, we're going to go ahead and set up a home equity loan appointment. So we would select lending and then home equity. Then once we've selected the service we want, the application figures out which branches can provide that service, how far we are from that location, and presents the options to us to pick from. And we would just select the branch generally that we wanted to go to. Once you've selected the branch, the application presents the available service representatives that we can choose from if we wish to, or we can pick any of the above, which will essentially give us the availability for either. Notice that we can define if the agent has a particular language skill or something like that we want the members to know about when they're scheduling an appointment. So, if we pick myself, it then shows the availability on my calendar for the appointment based on a 45-minute duration. The next time is the 18th, then the 20th, 23rd, 26th, 27th. The member can pick the date and then select a time option. And once that's done, they're presented with the contact information we have for them in the system, which they can revise at this time, maybe choose texting instead of email as notification, provide any additional information they'd like us to know. And when done, and again, we remind of what to bring to the appointment. They can confirm. They're issued a code that can be used when they check into the lobby, and that completes the appointment setting process. Then a member comes back, and you can see we now have a home equity loan set up on the 20th as well as the 23rd. That's how simple it is, really, to schedule an appointment for a member. And this interface is available through the mobile device, but also if links were placed on your website, there's a web version of it that supports the members. We also provide an ability for agents of the credit union to make appointments on a member's behalf or on a non-member's behalf. This is done through what we call the branch staff interface. Any employee in the credit union can have access to this, and we collect their email, so we just know who created the appointment. Then if it's a member, provide the same data. If it's not a member, just hit the non-member appointment button. And this is really what the web interface looks like. So as a credit union employee, I'm able to schedule certain appointment types that a non-member might not be able to schedule on their own. This person's coming in to get a business loan. So again, we're given, to choose the service, choose the location. As a credit union member, I can set it up at a custom location. For our credit union, this is the business services people sometimes go out to meet with the business part members at their location instead of having them come into the branch. And using this feature, they could set up an appointment at a unique location like the office of the of the customer, or select a location from the list. Again, presented with the options of agents that you can use. In this case, we'll go with any of the above. And you'll see we now have availability starting today. That's another thing that as a credit union employee you can do, is make a same day appointment instead of being restricted to making one on the next day. So it brings us up, we can select today, just select 2 p.m. Asks us to confirm that we do indeed need to make a same day appointment, and click it. Since this was a non-member, we have to capture a name for them. And then when that's done, again, we can provide more information. Oh, I got one too many characters on the social. And we can confirm it. And now an appointment has been set on behalf of a non-member by a credit union employee. That's how simple it is to handle appointments for members or non-members, either done by themselves, or if they choose to have it done on behalf by a credit union, say they call into the call center and want to see someone, or they're working with a teller and want to set something up in the future, or with an MSR. So that's kind of the request service experience. The next piece, when a member arrives in the lobby, is the self-service kiosk that we have to allow them to check in, to specify what services that they want. And a couple of things I wanted to note here. When you arrive in the lobby, it will show you how many people are waiting in the queue. Needs to be refreshed, but how long the average queue time is. You can check in as a member or a non-member. The credit union can provide messaging configurable on a branch-by-branch basis that they may want people using the kiosk to know. That messaging can also include graphics, such as this image, that can, again, be custom on a kiosk-by-kiosk basis. And there is support to configure in multiple languages to the system. So if you had a need for Spanish or another language, the text strings can be configured to support that other language. And then by pressing it, selecting a language, will switch to that language. So coming in here, if I'm just a walk-in, I would come in, say I'm a member. I'm going to identify myself by name. And it'll ask me for the last 4 of my social again, so we can get the identity right. Which services I'm coming in for. And I can multi-select on the services. So I might choose member services, and I want to get a notary, and then go back, and card services. And I'll need to speak to someone about my debit card, and select finish. I'm now checked in to the lobby. So the next thing that happens is a member walks in for an appointment. They hit the confirm appointment check-in code, and we go ahead and enter the code, hit check in, cross our fingers that we spelled it right. So then that's basically how members can check in. There's also an option where a greeter, if you have one and you haven't deployed a kiosk, can check the member in using the DNA application. which we're going to go ahead and switch to now. So I do have to unlock DNA. All right. So after unlocking DNA, this is what an agent sees in the system. When they're working, they're presented with what we call the all visits queue. That shows you who's waiting for service, how they checked in, what they're waiting for, their primary reason, how long they've been waiting. I put a couple of these folks in a while ago. And Mr. Mistum had just checked in. And, other comments that might be there. If they had checked in for an appointment, it would say they were in for an appointment, who they were there to visit. As an agent, then I would generally select the first person in the queue, provided I could process that reason. To do that, I would just acknowledge their visit, which then moves them to my queue, my visits queue. Go through the process of helping Mr. Rubble with the personal membership. When I'm done with that process, I can complete the visit. And when I do that, it brings up a checklist, again configured by the credit union, that allows me to indicate what actually took place during the visit. Maybe instead of a personal account, we ended up setting a business account. And when I confirm that we've captured that, you'll see he moves to a completed state. There are now 2 people waiting service. If I go back to the visits queue, I can select the next one that I think I can handle. Maybe I select Mr. Mistum, acknowledge him. Then when I actually meet with Mr. Mistum, I figure out that actually I can't do notary, or that he wants something else as well that I can't do. I can transfer him and return him to the waiting queue, or if there were other agents logged in, it would show me a list of the agents to transfer him to. So I'll just return him to the queue. And now he's back in the queue, and his time is still tracking from when he originally checked in. That's really how easy it is for an agent to work with the queue, to figure out who they match up with best skill-wise, to select individuals for service, provide the service, capture the information around what took place, and then go back and find the next individual to work with. So as what Scott talked about, one thing I demonstrate is the ability for, say, the tellers to create a visit. They have DNA just like the service representatives. They can just select this Create Visit tab, create a visit for a member or non-member. Indicate they're a non-member, say that they're here for an IRA, and click OK. And we just added, you saw within about 20 seconds, we were able to add Mr. Joe Blow into the queue from a desk position for an IRA service. So that's what Scott had kind of emphasized his folks were able to do very conveniently. He also talked about what we call lobby snapshot. That shows you the activity across the credit union, where people are checked in, what the average wait times are. The data is pretty much empty except for this location, but in a real life scenario, you'd see activity at all the different branches. It would show you the wait time, how many people were waiting, and give you a good opportunity to perhaps refer a member to somewhere where they could get service more quickly. So again, following up on what Scott said, there's an ability within the system to report on a number of different things. We track visit statistics. This is how many members came in to what location and which representative serviced them. Reason statistic, which is why did those members come in and who provided the service for the particular purpose. Visitor statistics, which is that information that allows you to do service recovery, showing you what a member came in for, their entire visit history, who they visited with, how the service interaction went. And finally, employee statistics that can be used for tracking performance on individuals, looking at what a particular employee has done over a time range. If we start here with the visit statistics, let's go back and look at some data in a couple of months ago. Say we're going to look at August 1 through September 30. So we can set the date range and then just hit query. Here it shows us for all of our branches, the amount of activity, how many appointments were canceled, how many were abandoned, what the average wait times were, process times, the total visit time for the members. Tabularly, here it is graphically on basically a day-by-day basis, showing you, arrivals, abandons, and the service metrics for that, how long they had to wait, how long it took to process their requests. We can change the interval if we wanted to, look at it weekly, monthly, or we can look down into a particular location, say Costa Mesa, and it will show us for that particular branch the same information. And if we had more than one queue, we would see the different queues at that branch, but with one queue, we can click in and it will show us each agent and the work that they've done over that time period. So you could see if one agent was handling significantly more, significantly fewer requests, whether the members waited longer for that agent, whether their process times were higher or generally lower than their peers. And then clicking down, you can actually see for that individual agent their day-by-day performance, and is particularly their variations in process time on a day-by-day basis. So it gives you a quick way, as Scott said, to figure out who may not be doing as well in terms of workload, and go figure out why, what you need to do to train them or help them develop skills. Now the second tab, reason statistics, that allows you to look at basically the same information, but look at it in terms of why people came in. What did they come in for? So here we're looking at it across the different services we've configured. We can see almost 700, a little over 700 people came in to add a deposit account. 688 came in for a consumer loan. Only 57 came in for a mobile banking for business. For each of those particular services, you can see how long the process times were, how long the wait times were. These might be indicative of maybe I've got either a resourcing challenge or not enough people are skilled up at that particular thing. Here you can see those same results graphically, which makes it a little bit more stark as to where your volume is. And then here, where your long processing times are. We can look at that at a credit union level or choose a particular branch to look at it. And then just query for the branch. And see what that data looks like for the branch. At a particular branch, if we wanted to tunnel down or on the information, then we can look on to that particular service, see who's providing it. Again, as Scott said, you might see someone who's only handled one or two of these, and that would be indicative of maybe they need some more training in credit cards. You could also see that there's a dramatic variability in the handle times or wait times associated with that particular service. It takes kind of the averaging out of it. But doing that approach, you can, as a branch manager, you can see what people were coming in for at your branch. You can go down to see how your agents are doing in each of those individual services. The next thing under visitor statistics, we can choose a visitor, a member basically, enter their name. Search for the member, find the member, set a date range over which we want to look to see what visits they've had. We'll make a fairly broad date range. We're not really sure when they came in. And then we can do that and see, okay, here's a visit on the 14th where they met with Mr. Hemphill about a home equity. Here's one on the 28th. They came back, met Mr. Hemphill again. Here, a debit card with Mr. Smith and then Mr. Banker on a home equity loan on the 4th. If we wanted to see the details of that visit, we can just double click on it. It will show us it was actually a scheduled interaction, when they came in, how long they were in process, who they met with, what the end result was. It got approved for a home equity loan, was sold. That way, as Scott indicated, if there were challenges, this member came in and was unhappy about something, you have the visibility to see what they came in for, who they met with, what it was about, how the service interaction went. And this data can be pretty useful in doing service recovery. So that's kind of a snapshot of the reporting that we provide on the lobby management visits. We also provide some separate reporting inside of the appointments solution, separating it, viewing it because it has different metrics we may be looking at. This is an example of a report for the appointment solution. Again, you can look at the reasons people came in for appointments, how many times, what percentage were tardy, which percentage just didn't show up and or canceled the appointment after it was made. Could tell you something about, maybe the reliability of the folks you're setting appointments to. The green bars are the categories, the white is just the services, and then a cumulative over the time range. This can be configured to look at any selection of branches down to just one branch. Can be configured to look at any selection of services. Presented graphically, if that's helpful to view your information that way, and can be exported to PDF or printed. That's an example of one report. We offer by service locations, roughly the same thing. We're completing reports on resourcing, service levels, the survey results, failed attempts, and really a call down list to be used by a credit union member just to call and remind people of upcoming appointments if we choose to. So that's really kind of the reporting capabilities of the system. And with the appointments module being relatively new, we are still enhancing the reporting components that are available there. So if we switch back to the lobby management in DNA, I'd like to show you a little bit of what you can do to configure the system to meet your credit union. The first thing clearly is you can define your branches. We collect, the name, their DNA number, latitude and longitude for mapping purposes, addresses, contact information, what the hours of operation are, whether they're closed on any particular day. And once that information's available, we can then go in and say, what do we want members to visit us for, or how do we want to track their interactions with us? As a credit union, you can come in and define categories, define services that go within those categories. We might decide that this test service doesn't really belong and delete it or add a new service if we chose to. All this is just configurable by the credit union. to define the services. With the services defined, we can then go in and decide which queues we need at what branches. You'll see at Bolsa we've got 2 queues, a business service queue and an MSR queue. Costa Mesa only has an MSR queue, whereas Costa Mesa 17th, one of our larger branches, has business MSR and a separate lending queue. These, again, definable by your institution, just depending on the level of the size and resourcing at the branch, whether you have specialists that devote to a particular function or more generalists that handle multiple functions. Each queue, as it gets assigned, you can define notifications, what the threshold is for them, define which services are handled by that queue, and add or subtract as we see fit. Business services, we're handling basically the business services. There's a couple of specialists for that there. So the queues can be defined. Moving along, the product information that we capture after the interaction can also be defined strictly by the credit union to match what you want to collect, what you want to call the product, its description, what order you want it on the display list, if you want to inactivate it after a particular time, what that date would be. That information, again, just gets configured into the system. Skipping over these things, these allow you to customize appearance, timers, other aspects of the system. If we go to self-service, you can define the holidays for your credit union, define the advertisements that you want to be available at each branch, both as text and as images, so that the branches can configure in particular messaging. That's pretty much how we configure the lobby management component of the system. The appointment is configured a little differently. It's done here through a web interface. You can come in and set, how far in advance appointment has to be. We've got it set to tomorrow, the next day. How big the appointment window is. 2 weeks. How far into the future do you want to let people make appointments, I guess is what that indicates. We've used 2 weeks, we've used 30 days. Those types of things you can configure. Whether members will initially receive contacts by email or text, whether they will receive reminders, all of which the member can change, but these are the defaults. Tailor the colors to match what your credit union's website looks like, so that when this is launched, it kind of blends in. And that goes with providing a logo as well. Here you can configure reminders for appointments. If you want people to get a reminder an hour out, a day out, 2 days out, maybe a week out, it's up to you. There can be as many as you choose to configure or as few, and at whatever time intervals you choose to set. You also can set a blackout window where reminders will not be sent between, say, midnight and 5 a.m. We do allow the definition of operational regions within the system and configuring which regions that the appointments is supporting. One client has through mergers, has got 2 distinct geographic regions they're supporting, one in Alaska, one in the West Coast. So the system is set up to distinguish between those 2 regions, allow the administration to be done regionally, and also the web links to be regional for the members. As the admin here, you can also configure what services are offered. We load this list of services down from the lobby management core component you saw, and then as an appointment, you can decide which ones. You provide that additional configurations. One of the things is, will this be available for appointments? Yes or no. We disable it. What image will be used? This one's disabled. I choose to enable it. What image will be used? The description. What documentation we want to request the members to provide. What's the typical duration of the appointment? How many minutes after the appointment does the agent typically need to complete the processing and be ready for the next member? And then who can set it? Whether everyone can schedule it, i.e. non-members, members, and service reps. service reps and members only, or service reps only. Service reps only in our world is there for things like loan signings, where we need to make sure the paperwork is lined up before the engagement gets scheduled. We can configure it that way so only a credit union employee can set that particular type of appointment up. So we configure that down, and then we can go to managing our branches. The system does allow for local administration at a branch level or global administration, which is what I'm doing now. As a local administrator, we can go in, global administrator, we can define the local administrators who can then control some of their information, or as the branch manager, we can take care of that for them. As the global administrator, take care of that for them, configure which services are available at each branch, and then also configure which resources are available at each branch and which services those resources will support from an appointments perspective. Then we've already touched on reporting. That's pretty much it for the configurability of the system. Just to wrap up, the strengths of our system: it is integrated into DNA, it integrates with Outlook. You don't have to maintain information in multiple places. It's modular, you can buy the pieces that you want. You don't have to deploy all the components. Once it's implemented, it's pretty easy on operations. It's pretty well used. We've done over 1 million visits, as Scott indicated, since 2014. So that leads me to questions.
Right. Steve, we've had several questions come in.
Okay.
Several for Scott from the beginning of this. So Scott, this one's for you. How hard was it to train your staff and your members on using the system? That's a good question.
Training the employees, I could say, very, very quickly adapted to it without a whole lot of issues. Of course, there's a little bit of getting used to it and making sure that they acknowledge visits and making sure we had to develop a process as far as how we wanted to do it. Because what would happen is two people would try to go out at the same time. We had to kind of work around that as far as somebody trying to grab one out of the queue and then the other person tries to go grab it. So we had to make sure that people were acknowledging the visit before they actually went out and talked to the member. But other than that, once they got used to that didn't take very long at all. That way there was no confusion there. Now, the younger millennials, your generations, they jumped on this thing without a hitch for the most part. It's a touch screen for the kiosk when they log in, the mobile check-in. They jumped right into it, no problem. So now for your members that we've had, for the traditional members that we've had for a while, now that was the challenge. It is a low percentage as far as most people had no problem with it, but we did occasionally have to work with those members and get them comfortable with it so that they weren't intimidated by it or didn't feel like it was something that they just couldn't handle. So my suggestion to that is that you keep somebody out for roughly a month, depending on your branch volume and what you have to deal with and all the different types of responsibilities your branch has to encounter. Maybe a month is a good of having a greeter continuing to be out there, or management, or some type of person out there that kind of can assist. So we continued to have a greeter at first when it was first implemented at each branch, but after that, after the first month or two of that, it became a lot more comfortable for those types of members that weren't, I guess, as tech savvy as some of our younger members.
Okay, we have another question, Scott. As a branch manager, how useful to you is the reporting built into the system? Okay, how useful is the reporting?
It's extremely useful. I run the reports regularly on a weekly basis. It's a great method for, as Steve showed you in the demo, there's a lot of applications for it. It's kind of, I won't say limitless, but there's a lot of things you can do with it from performance standpoint, as well as how you can better serve your members. It gives you a good, when you have meetings, manager meetings, when you go into these meetings with your AVPs or vice presidents or whatever, and you're talking about process improvement. This is where these reports really come in handy for me and for other managers at the branches, because you can really take the time to show your boss, show your, like I said, your vice president, where we can improve our processes and and come up with new ideas to improve on that. So it's been very useful for me and other of my peers in that respect, and as well as getting people over that hump, like new employees or newly promoted employees in a service representative role. It's very, very helpful, because because you can see, oh my gosh, you guys didn't do any IRAs this month. We need to get you some additional training or ensure, or if there's a problem, maybe they're timid about it. It really brings a whole lot of questions to light that you can address in a much more timely, a better time frame and a much more efficient time frame, because it's not months on down the road. It's immediate and real time. So yeah, very useful.
Okay, great. Steve, here's one for you. How does the integration with Outlook work?
Pretty straightforward. We work with either we install an agent on the Microsoft Exchange server. It works with either a premise-based Exchange or Office 365, which a number of our clients are moving to. The agent account allows us to see availability, place appointments onto agents' calendars, and maintain calendars detailing all the appointments at a branch.
Okay, and Scott, here's another question for you. What aspect of the system has had the biggest impact on the branch operations?
Well, yeah, just to supplement what we had already talked about, just that ability to track and report on each member interaction, as well as what the staff's producing on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, has probably made the biggest difference. And then just keeping everything organized and efficient. The efficiency and accuracy has been a huge step forward for us, and I can't underestimate the fact that we can now make better decisions based off of that. So the biggest aspect is just that ability to track and report.
Okay, great. And Steve, here's one for you. What information does the Elmo system use from within DNA?
Sure. So we limit what we use, but basically we focus on some basic information about the members, their names, their date of birth, last four of the social that's used to establish identity. We also use information about the agents from DNA, such as their roles, their contact information, what device they're logged into, which tells us which branch they're in, which assigns them to a particular service queue. We can export that to the appointments module, or we also allow access to the member profile from inside of the Elmo interface.
Okay, and we have two more quick questions. Steve, how do my members get to the mobile client from our online banking client? Is that
sure.
hard?
Well, I don't think so. Obviously, it will kind of depend on your online banking client, but for most of the clients we've seen, they have an option to add an external website that you can link to from the client without actually having to log into the client. And using that methodology, we're basically able to launch the mobile version of the application from inside of Digital Insight, from inside of Q2, simply by preparing a menu option and a URL within the application. Other clients have been able to configure that within a day or so, configure and test it.
Okay, and we'll take this, and this will be the last question. And if you've submitted them and submitted questions and we haven't gotten to it, we will respond through email. Steve, what new capabilities are being added to the system in the near future?
Great question. There are certain things that are still coming. We've implemented regions, but we haven't implemented regional reporting. The idea is if you're a regional manager or vice president responsible for 8 or 10 branches, to allow you to look at that aggregation of the information instead of just seeing at the credit union or the individual branch level. We're adding member surveying to the appointment apps in Q1 of next year, which will allow to collect information from the members, volunteered information or solicited information regarding how their appointment interaction went. We're also putting in the ability to handle virtual appointments, i.e. Where no physical location is involved, just a phone call or maybe a WebEx to handle the interaction. So those are just a few of the key things that are coming in the near future. Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone for participating in the webinar. I apologize for it running about 5 minutes long. We appreciate your time. We think that lobby management, as Scott conveyed, is really a great benefit to the branch managers and the branch teams. And, our solution has been built to take advantage of DNA and with the full inputs of people that are operating branches every day. That's the benefit we have as a QSO for Redstone Credit Union. We build it hand in hand with the operational team. So if you'd like more information, please reach out to Jim Ray at the phone number or information up on the screen. This webinar will be posted online within a day or two. If there's anyone you would like to have see it or portions of it in the future. And again, we very much appreciate your time. Thank you.